All right, today we're going to continue learning Likuti Torah. As you can see, I'm still hoarse. Hopefully it's better than it was yesterday. All right, so we said that there are two different types of tzadikim. And we have to remember that essentially this relates to all the Jewish people. And through them, this will relate in some way to all of the world, all of humanity. Because the goal of all humanity is to recognize the Creator who's creating them and the reason why they're being created and why everyone is created different than everybody else. So there's two types of tzadikim in general. One type is called fish. That's compared to Leviatan. It says that in the future there's going to be a war between Leviatan and the big ox, the wild ox. And we're going to see that this word, shor habor, it's called, is either a wild ox or it could be a pure ox. Bor means to be refined. Or it can be outside ox. We'll see in a moment, I hope. Excuse me. It says there's the one. And then there's this fish. So there's two different types of tzaddikim. The ones who are like the fish, they're much, much more superior in their awareness of God than those who are the ox. The fish says they go from one end of the world to the other. They can go from the highest levels of godliness to the lowest levels of godliness. Whoa, this is really bad. So it says that the world stands upon people like this because they're truly aware of God. The rest of the world doesn't even know that there is such a thing as God. And if they do, it's just by belief and not total awareness. But these people are totally aware of the Creator with every fiber of their being. And that's hinted at the first paragraph of Shema Yisrael. We say, loving God, the kol me'odecha, with all of your being. So they're really far superior in their connection to God. It's much more real than that of those tzaddikim that are like the ox. And that's why it says that in the future, the fish, he's going to slaughter the ox with his fins, and it'll be a meal for the tzaddikim. It'll be a meal. So what does this mean that he'll slaughter? So the Gemara asks the question, you can't slaughter an animal with a saw. There are laws for ritual slaughtering. And the laws are that the knife must be straight and smooth. And technically sharp also. So let's say that the fins of this fish are sharp, but it's serrated. It's not smooth, it's not straight. So we'll see. And also, it says that what it means that they will slaughter doesn't mean that they'll kill it. Exactly the opposite. It means that there'll be an elevation. Because what is really slaughtering when an animal is slaughtered? It takes an animal which is forbidden to eat, and it makes it not just possible to eat, but also once it's eaten, if it's kosher to be eaten, once it's eaten, it becomes part of the person. So the animal also becomes elevated to be a person. And in a way, it elevates the person. So, so that's what it means that the these big tzadikim, the great tzadikim, that they're the hidden ones, that they will elevate the others. But him is really Gamshor, a bore. Oh, also, the lower tzaddikim, Yaleh, will also elevate Leviatan, the fish. Each one will elevate the other one, because it says in the story, in the midrash, that they'll fight, and each one will slaughter the other one. So it means slaughtering doesn't mean slaughtering; it means elevating, like I said before. So it says that these tzaddikim, that they are like fish, they are much higher. They will give their energy and elevate these lower tzaddikim, which is not the case. The lower ones, they have to be elevated, right? So it says, no, the fact is, these lower tzaddikim, these Jews that are attached to God in a lower way, they elevate also the tzaddikim, those who are connected to God totally. How can the lower ones, the ones that are the oxes, elevate the ones that are fish? Is in one facet, avodas na'ilid yoser, because those that are like the oxes, their service of God is even higher. Even though that it is a more physical service of God, not so connected to the essence of God, but more connected to the will of God in this world and doing the commandments, etc. All right. Because that's how it has to be according to the Torah. Rejoicing in the holiday. And there is no rejoicing except in physical meat and physical wine. The tzaddikim are like fish. They get joy from their connection to God. The tzaddikim, that they are like oxes, their joy comes from serving God in physical things. But on the one hand, being in this physical world and elevating it is higher than the tzaddikim who are only totally connected to God. It's something like Nadav and Avihu in our Torah portion. Because of this, the lower tzaddikim, they will elevate the higher ones. The ones that are like oxes will elevate the others. This God will show in the future, in the time of the future redemption, this will be shown to the tzaddikim, klalas avodasam by Alma. So in other words, what's going on over here? There are physical tzaddikim, and these physical human beings, Jews, can be divided into two levels. Those who are connected to this aspect of the fish, that those are the hidden tzaddikim, and those who are connected to this aspect of the ox. Because we have to remember, very important, everything we have and everything we do comes from God. All inspiration and all of our abilities and our talents all come from the Creator. And God just gives us this gift, which is called free choice, that we can choose to use it how we want. But some people are simply gifted. They can choose to use this gift or not to use the gift. But not everybody is going to be a concert pianist or a professional basketball player or whatever. The same way is not every Jew can become a tzaddik. But every Jew can choose to use his abilities to, if he has the ability to be a tzaddik like a fish, is he can use his free will, which is also a gift from God. So there are those tzaddikim were going to be like, who derive from this aspect of the fish, this Leviatan. And there are those who derive from the aspect of the ox, which that's more accessible to every Jew. And those Jews that serve God in this physical way, like the ox, is they will also elevate the higher tzadikim. This is something like it says that Moses said to the Jewish people, 600,000 feet, Sheish Meot Elef Ragli. The Jewish people are like the feet for Moses. They elevate him. Even though the head is much higher than the feet, but still the feet elevate the head. So that God is going to show in the future and to the tzaddikim in this world, the human being, the human Jews, that what service, what they did was really in both ways. Both of them are good. Baha, hi, Adif, in this one, it's better to be like the fish. Baha, hi, Adif, in this one, it's better to be like the ox. But both of them have an advantage, each one over the other one. Also, we can say that what it says, the one, some are like an ox, says that there's much power, much benefit in the power of the ox. Like it says, one of the Tanaim said, I always called my ox my field. Why? Because the whole purpose of the ox was to bring out the produce of the field. With the ox, he could plow. With the ox, he could harvest. And the Torah is called this produce. This is because of the oxes that work in this physical world. That's why they're called Shura Bar. The word bar also means produce, food, like Lishbor Bar. So far the word bar means Shura Bar. This ox, which is, bar can be wild, bar can be purified, bar can be produce, food, the benefits that come from it. Also, we can say that in the future it says, tzadikim elu, that's what it means, amud echad b'tzadik shemo, that there is one pillar, and it is called tzadik. This holds the whole world up. Okay, for instance, Yosef a tzaddik. Now, Yosef a tzaddik, Yosef, he was the idea of a tzaddik who was like the level of a fish. His brothers, the 12 tribes, they couldn't conceive of what Yosef was, the other 11 tribes. And they couldn't conceive of it, how high Yosef's level was. That's why they were jealous of him. But nevertheless, he's called also an ox. Like it says, Bechor Shoro, Hadarlo. So we see that even these high tzaddikim that are like fish, that they also have the aspect of the ox. In other words, they work in this world. And there was never a tzaddik that worked in this world like Yosef. Yosef was the king of Egypt, the lowest, disgusting place in the world. And he ruled the whole country. He had to make these split-second, tremendous decisions, dealing with every single person and everything. And so even though he was at the level of fish, but nevertheless, he was very active in the world. So we see that there's a combination of both of them. Okay, so it says, the Leviatan, these hidden tzaddikim, it says in the future, they will slaughter this ox with its fins. What does it mean? That they will elevate them. Even though that nowadays, such a ritual slaughtering like this is forbidden. Paguma Gomorrah. It is disqualified because of a hefsek, because there's a little break between each one of the blades. And so the fish it has to be slaughtered with something that's sharp and straight. Chad v'chalak. And the fins of a fish aren't. So how is it that these big tzaddikim are going to elevate everyone else with their fins, all right, there's a break there. You can't elevate it. With that, slaughtering is elevating, we're saying. But it says in the future, it will be that way. Why? Because this whole thing of shechita, of slaughtering, it doesn't mean to stop the other person. It doesn't mean that the big tzadikim are going to negate the lower ones. No, they'll elevate them. This is a thing of elevating. They'll elevate this aspect of the Shur Habor to be higher and higher. And this will be by the means of the Leviatan, by these big tzadikim, right? Like we say, one in every generation. Therefore, but in order to elevate them, it can't be at one time, can't be straight. It has to be little by little. There has to be a hefsek beinam, because it's impossible to elevate a person at once. Elevating a person means that you make him lose his whole perception of himself and of the world, and gain a totally new perception of what the world is all about. Become a different person. And this you can't do at once. It has to be done gradually, like it's known. There are many, many levels in awareness of God. There's what's called Heichel, Haratzon, etc. There's these different chambers of elevation and awareness of God. And it's impossible that there can be to elevate to these different levels of awareness at once. But there has to be a separation between them. Therefore, God will permit this slaughtering of this ox by means of the fins. In other words, the elevation of the lower level of the tzaddik to be like the awareness of God, like the high. It can't be done at once. It has to be done little by little. Therefore, God will permit this serrated slaughtering. The Shur Habor, it will be elevated, but also it says that the ox will also elevate the fish. Why? Because it'll stab it with its horns. In other words, each one will show that there's an advantage to the other. Those tzaddikim who are only concerned with God, serving God with all their being, this is very, very praiseworthy. Like we see when Moses praised in this week's Torah portion, Nadav and Avihu, and they were so devoted to God that they gave their lives totally. But on the other hand, there's a tremendous advantage to those tzaddikim that work in the physical world, and they're dealing with the world, elevating the world. So each will receive from the other. In the future, we'll realize how great the world is. But on the other hand, there'll be a tremendous revelation of God higher than all of the worlds. From the creator of all the worlds will be revealed here. That's the whole idea of Moshiach. Moshiach, it says, will bring the highest awareness of God down to the lowest aspects so that the world will be filled with the awareness of God like water fills the ocean. Even the highest mountains and the lowest valleys under the ocean, they're all equal. And the ocean you can't see. The highest of the tzaddikim, the lowest of the low will be equal. And it's all because of the work of these two different types of tzaddikim. Those that are totally devoted to God, as is hinted at the first paragraph of Shema Yisrael, B'kol Meodecha, with all of your being. And those that serve God through speech, action, thought in this world, as is hinted at in the second paragraph of the Shema, without all of your being. But that will be incorporated into every human being in the coming of the arrival of the Moshiach. Now, right, let's just do a little bit of the Sichot already. You can see that my suffering here. Here we go.